Hello there. Today I was watching an episode of Japanology, which is a series that describes various aspects of Japanese culture, and they were talking about the production of matcha tea. Matcha is a green and expensive tea that they make in Japan. It's used for sweets and cakes and also for traditional ceremonies. You saw an artisan grinding the tea on these millstones, and they were milling the tea, and it was very beautiful to watch. And then the presenter started talking about science. You know, if you're a big producer, you'll get the scientists in who will try to replicate the artisan way of producing tea, but on a large scale. And the scientist was saying that you have to use millstones because they produce particles of certain dimensions, and because the temperature of the milling faces was between 49 and 51 centigrade. Something like that, anyway. As soon as he started talking, I just wanted to kill myself. Because science is like that. What is it? It's just a way of killing the heart. Here you have traditional practice of people milling tea, part of the integral culture of the nation, and continuing this beautiful tradition. And then along comes this fucking scientist and starts talking about centigrade and spins per minute and volume and production. It's just murdering everything, isn't it? Isn't that what science is? It's just a way of murdering life. And I noticed very clearly that this sort of integral energy inside me of feeling things with your hands and feeling the line of your people, then the peace and joy of the real, and then this awful vicious vulture swooping down with its fucking words. Terrible. Science, I don't think it's what it claims to be. It is not a higher form of reason, nor is it the use of the mental faculty. It's some sort of inner violence or something. Reason is not necessarily about the intellect. Reason, as Gurdjieff described at length, reason is the ability to do. And to do things, you have to hold the physical world in your hand, and your spirit has to be there. You can use your mental faculties, but will is a mental faculty. It doesn't necessarily mean you think, like concepts or words or plans. Your will is like very pure mental faculty. And if you think for a reason. In the old days they used to use slide rules, logarithms, and those imperial measurements. Stones, pounds, fathoms. A murder of crows. And this conducted you into the heart of the relative earth world. This world that we live on, with its unique features, where everything that we learn is in relation to the magpies and the type of rocks we find, in what you see when you crack a rock open. And the mollusks you find in the seaweed adhering, clumping to the seashore. Everything that we know is in relation to the beauty and difficulties of this world, this relative world, this very real and very unique world we live on. And science is like trying to live without a world, try to live in some strange, atheistic, anti-human, anti-life bubble of arrogance. I did a mathematics degree. I have a very fine thinking machine, but I never used it in a violent way. It never felt like that inside of me. I never used my thinking as a weapon. And I think that it is actually quite stupid people who are trying to imitate thinking that bash people with science. And scientists are not, in fact, intelligent people. Neither are doctors. They're just people who are willing to say the right things and regurgitate the right things, and then they make their money and feel good about themselves, but they never really had any interest at all. And that's one aspect of the world that we live in, that there are so many people on this planet who are just like that. I don't know if you should blame them, but if you're born and nobody loves you and you don't feel your heart, then some people just follow the road of taking and lying and cheating and becoming an appearance with nothing inside. And they live and die like that, clinging to the flesh, clinging to the trinkets of this world. That was something else. This is slightly unrelated, but this morning I was trying to speak to one of my many eyes in trying to explain that we live in a world of clay. Everything that we work will fall to the ground and disintegrate. But we learn, you see, from the activity of shaping the clay. And so I think it says something like this in Rudyard Kipling's poem If, that you have to give your absolute best. Once the work is done, then you rest, and you let everything fall to the ground as it will, and you let the next generation shape the clay the way they need to. You can't necessarily protect your work forever. I mean, the idea of a nation is that it is passed down, and there's a sort of a momentum that Gurdjieff talked about, a momentum, a line of work. But I'm talking about something a bit different, that we live in a relative world. Nothing here lasts forever, but yet it is by the use of what is relative that we develop our fine abilities, physical, emotional, mental. In fact, because it's relative, because it all perishes, we have a particular need to be at the top of our game, to learn the art of shaping the clay of this world. And then, as a wise man, you stand away after your creation is finished and allow it to follow its course into the ground. Rest when the work is done. That way it lasts forever. Because actually what lasts forever is the creating or the learning the physical world is the clay that reflects our journey. And Gurdjieff had another way, a very beautiful way, one of the Gurdjieff arts, which was to give more. And everything that you do, whatever is asked of you, you give more. Even in small things, big things, not in a silly way. Not trying to hug everybody or please everybody. I don't mean that, but every moment of your life is an opportunity to give a bit more, to be a bit finer, to work with quality, in whichever way you choose to do it. But the one of the values of this is that it breaks you out of the rhythm into a higher light. You can break yourself out of a rhythm by just stopping things, and that's how most people understand breaking out of a rhythm. But if we take Gurdjieff's spirit, let's go back in and cut more deeply and more beautifully, with a more refined arc. Let us feel our spirit flowing through. That's a good way. That allows you to continuously throughout the day break your rhythm upwards, inwards. When ideas are full of light, and when they die and drop away, this is something that does not seem to be really known in human society. But a concept like gravity, which was initiated by one scientist or several scientists, people who were interested in exploration, and their passion and their spirit created this idea of gravity, and that idea is like a living field, a living message. And after they've died, centuries on, people still talk about gravity, but it's quite possible for that living flame to go out, and then all you're left with is just an empty word, like a husk with no heart. And then you find that it vanishes. It's replaced in the books. It's replaced by the government. That's how things work. The word gravity is actually pointing to a living feeling of an idea that was created by passionate men who work together to kindle this idea and experience this idea. And where it lives, I don't know, in the ether somewhere. And every time those men talked of gravity, they were pointing with their heart to this fire, this of understanding that they had grown together. And once those men die, and people are left with this word and this sort of vague sense of it, and perhaps they change the inner meaning, you see. And it is this way with everything, even with people. Even with people. Is that person really what he is meant to be? Or has he become just an empty husk and the fire has gone out?